Hey guys, today we are ranking the Goosebumps Most Wanted series. So I just finished reading the last Most Wanted book that I needed to read yesterday, and I was able to put together my list, the ranking pretty quickly. There's only 15 books in the series, so it's not real big, and I was able to decide which ones I liked more fairly easily. So yeah, we're just going to go through these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about each book. I'll just cover them kind of briefly, and I will be upfront and say that the Goosebumps Most Wanted series is probably my least favorite series in the franchise. uh, it does have some good books, and I don't necessarily regret reading these or anything like that, but there are some books in this series that I will probably never read again. So let's just jump right into it. Of course, starting from least favorite and working our way towards the best one, or what I think is the best one. Of course, this list is just my opinion as usual with these types of ranking videos. But yeah, let's just get started, guys. At the bottom of the list, my very least favorite most wanted book is Planet of the Lawn Gnomes. This book has no clear plot, nothing really. This book just feels like a bunch of random stuff, just a bunch of random scenes just thrown together. And then, spoiler alert, we get a twist ending where the main character figures out he's on the planet of the lawn gnomes the entire time, and that's why all this weird stuff is happening. And yeah, this was just a really dumb book. Did not care for this one at all. This is one of my all-time least favorite Goosebumps books. I did not really get any enjoyment out of this, to be honest. Next up, at number 14, we have Dr. Maniac Will See You Now. And this one is even more wild and crazy than Planet of the Lawn Gnomes is. I actually have an individual review up for this book. And this one also just feels like a bunch of just randomness thrown together. And the reason I decided to place this above Planet of the Lawn Gnomes is because this book actually made me laugh a couple of times. There's a lot of humor in this book, and while most of it falls flat and isn't really all that funny, I did laugh a couple of times, so I have to give some kind of props to the book for managing to do that. So yeah. But otherwise, this book is just not good. I feel like I lost a couple brain cells after reading this just because of how dumb it is. But yeah, Dr. Maniac Will See You Now comes in at number 14. At number 13, we have Night of the Puppet People. Now this book, the reason I rated this book so low is it's essentially a Night of the Living Dummy Slappy ripoff. Instead of the Slappy the ventriloquist dummy, we get marionette puppets. That's really all this book is. It's not necessarily the worst book on this list, and I could understand if some people might enjoy this one, but I don't understand the point of it. I don't understand why R.L. Stine wrote this book. Like, he could have just wrote another Slappy or Night of the Living Dummy book. He has no problem doing so. Apparently, there's already like a dozen Slappy sequels, so why not just do another one of those? This book just feels completely pointless. I don't understand the existence of this book. So yeah, it's not as bad as these other two, but it's just not good to me. I just did not care about this book at all. So Night of the Puppet People comes in at number 13 on my list. At number 12, we have The Lizard of Oz. And this one wasn't very good either. To me, this one kind of felt like a parody of Goosebumps. They basically, this main character and her family basically get this crazy looking lizard as a pet. And yeah, I don't even remember everything that happens because this book is just so crazy and dumb. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't really care for this one either. And this one also has a very cliche ending, something R.L. Stine has done before. You know, I'm going to be giving spoilers for these, by the way, I think. So, spoiler alert. At the end, it turns out that her and her family are lizards the whole time. So, yeah, just really dumb. I did not care for The Lizard of Oz. At number 11, we have a special edition in the Most Wanted series, and that is Trick or Trap. And this is probably my least favorite special edition. I did not enjoy this book at all. Honestly, this book should be titled Trick or Trash, because this book was garbage. This book kind of follows in the formula of the You Can't Scare Me and Are You Terrified books yet from earlier in the Goosebumps franchise. And it doesn't do anything new whatsoever. It just feels like kind of a rehash of those two books. And then when like the supernatural stuff is kind of introduced at the very end, things are just wrapped up at the very last minute. It presents a bunch of ideas, but nothing gets explained. Nothing goes into real details regarding those like more supernatural ideas. And it's just all wrapped up within the last few pages. And it's just like, what was the point of that? What was the point of this entire book? So yeah, Trick or Trap wasn't necessarily terrible. Obviously, it was a little bit better than these other ones, but it just was kind of boring and nothing special about it. And again, too, this is a special edition, so it was overly long. This one was like 160 pages, and it didn't need to be. So yeah, Trick or Trap comes in at number 11. I'm going to keep forgetting what number I'm on. As usual with these ranking lists, I can never keep track of what number I'm on. At number 10, we have another special edition. This one really not that much better, and that is The Haunter. Now, I actually like the first half of this book. So in the first half, our main character and some friends from school go to a haunted house. I believe they're doing it as like a school project or something. I can't remember. And they go to try to like discover paranormal activity in this house, and they take like EMF readers and like just different equipment and stuff to try to discover paranormal activity or whatever. And from there, the second part of the book, after they leave the haunted house, just takes a really silly and goofy turn. It actually introduces kind of an interesting, or not interesting, but kind of like a dark idea, something that's not delved into very often in Goosebumps, and that is possession. But it's done in a very childish and corny way, and I was honestly not enjoyable at all. The ghost that's like takes over our main character's like soul or whatever is basically making him do these really like stupid dance moves and just doing all this really weird stuff in school to embarrass him. And it's just, it's not good. It's not entertaining. I think it's just, again, Stein's attempt to be funny. And sometimes he is really funny. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy a lot of the humor in the Goosebumps books. But in this one, it just didn't work. It started out as kind of like a scary, like creepy ghost story with this haunted house. And then it just completely resorts to humor. And it does not work for me. So yeah, The Haunter comes in at number 10. At number 9, we have A Nightmare on Clown Street. And this one was a reread. I first read this one a while ago, but I didn't remember it, of course. So I decided to reread it, and I discovered that I still didn't really like it that much. This one kind of feels a little bit like the original Creature Teacher from Series 2000, in regards to like the formula of the story and the plot structure. It's basically about this kid that goes to this circus to join in with all these clowns and learn how to be a clown and everything. And then he discovers that the clowns are disappearing one by one. And then his uncle disappears, and he has to try to figure out where he went, and he tries to save him. And it turns out there's this other dimension called Clown Street that he goes into, like this alternate reality type of thing. And yeah, I just didn't really care for this book, to be honest. It felt kind of like a ripoff of Creature Teacher, and it had some other elements, or elements of like other Goosebumps books in here. And this one wasn't completely terrible. We're kind of getting more towards the middle of the list now, but I still did not really care for it. I think I give this book like a 2 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that's A Nightmare on Clown Street at number 9. At number 8, we have Zombie Halloween. Now, this book kind of had some interesting things going for it. I liked the prologue. It was kind of creepy. I liked how it started out in the 40s, and it had some references to World War II, which R.L. Stine hardly ever references, like culture and like things going on in older eras and different time frames or time settings or whatever. But yeah, this one had some interesting ideas going for it. But again, this is a special edition book, about 170 pages, I think, and it did not need to be that long. This book drags so much. And the biggest thing that irritated me about this book is I lost count how many times R.L. Stine used the word zombie at about 2,378. All right, well, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I don't think he used the word zombie that many times, but it sure felt like it. In this book, the characters talk about zombies more than there actually are zombies in here. Everyone is just obsessed with zombies. That's all they talk about. The plot really doesn't go anywhere until like the last 30 pages of the book. And again, kind of like Trick or Trap, everything is just very rushed. It happens all within the last few pages, and it makes you wonder what the point is of these special edition books. I don't doubt that R.L. Stine is capable of having longer Goosebumps books that are actually good and make sense, but all of the special edition books in the Most Wanted series so far, they just feel pointless. The added length does nothing to the story except make it drag. So yeah, Zombie Halloween. One thing I forgot to mention too, or almost forgot to mention about this book, is I really did like the twist ending in this one. The twist ending was the best part of this book for me. Part of the reason is because it featured, kind of minor spoiler alert, it featured some monsters that weren't zombies, so I was pretty excited to have something in there that wasn't zombies for a change. And then the twist ending also made use of a kind of a plot device that took place earlier in the story. It was something that at first I thought was just going to be wasted and was there for like a distraction, but it ended up being used towards the end, and it kind of worked, and I kind of liked it. I almost wished we had gotten the twist ending in here earlier in the story, and then the story kind of progressed from there following upon that twist. I think that would have been cool. So yeah, Zombie Halloween, it had some okay stuff about it, but overall I didn't really like it. So it comes in at number 8 on my list. At number 7, we have Creature Teacher Final Exam. Of course, this is the sequel to Creature Teacher from Series 2000, which happens to be one of my all-time favorites. And unfortunately, I have a hard time looking at this book as a standalone, and I keep comparing it when I was reading it to the original. And in comparison to the original, this book sucks. The first Creature Teacher is just so good, and this one just does not even hold a candle to the first one. But this still isn't too bad. I feel like if I would have read this before having read the original Creature Teacher, I think I would have liked it a lot more. And I think others who maybe haven't read the original Creature Teacher or just getting into Goosebumps might get something out of this. This isn't really a bad book. It's not as serious and as dark as the first Creature Teacher. This one's, again, kind of leans more towards the humor. That seems to be like a general theme with this Most Wanted series, is it's more humorous than it is scary. But yeah, overall, I think I give this book a 2 out of 5 stars too. So it comes in at number 7 on my ranking. At number 6, we have another special edition. This is the best out of all the special editions in the Most Wanted series, and that is The 12 Screams of Christmas. Now, this book I actually really like starting out. It has some interesting ideas. The main character can basically see dead people. She sees ghosts. We don't really get much explanation as to why that is, unfortunately, but it's kind of interesting, something a little bit different. And this one also has a prologue in it that takes place in like the 40s or the 50s or something. I don't remember for sure. And yeah, it's just kind of neat. This one feels a little bit fresh. Out of all of the Most Wanted books I've showed you so far, this one feels the most unique, whereas a lot of the books in this series are just a bunch of rehashed and recycled ideas from past Goosebumps books. So yeah, this one I liked. It was a little bit boring, and again, it's a special edition, so it's longer than it needs to be. It drags at times. But overall, this one wasn't too bad. And it also had a really creepy scene at the end involving an attic in an old abandoned house where they're practicing their school play, which is kind of what the plot of this book is. It's like a Phantom of the Opera type thing. This does borrow elements from Phantom of the Auditorium from the original Goosebumps series. But yeah, this one wasn't too bad. I give it like a high 2 out of 5 stars, almost like a 2.5 kind of. So yeah, 12 Screams of Christmas comes in at number 6. Like I said, guys, I'm going to keep forgetting what number I'm on. I'm surprised I'm staying on track so far. At number 5, we have How I Met My Monster. Now, this book, I know I was saying a lot of the books in this series are just rehashed and recycled ideas. And this is going to seem kind of contradictory because this one, even though it's higher up on the list, is probably the most recycled idea out of any book in this series. There's nothing new or creative about this book or innovative at all. This one is literally The Girl Who Cried Monster, essentially. If you've read The Girl Who Cried Monster from the original Goosebumps series, that's pretty much what this book is. The thing is, though, is that even though this one is just completely recycled idea with nothing new in here whatsoever, if you've read at least 5 Goosebumps books in your lifetime, you will predict everything that happens in this book. But it's a good formula. And I think that's why, even though I wasn't a huge fan of this book, and again, I wasn't really impressed by it, and I predicted everything, it's a good formula. The plot structure, it feels familiar. It feels kind of like classic Goosebumps, even though it doesn't offer anything new. And it was still okay. I think I give this book a 2.5 out of 5 stars. And yeah, How I Met My Monster comes in at number 6 for me. Am I off track? I think I am, guys. All right, that was number 5, not number 6. At number 4, we have Frankenstein's Dog, and I will say right off the bat, this one has the coolest cover art out of any of the Most Wanted books. Look at that. That is so cool. And this one, again, it just has some recycled ideas, but this was an okay book. I like this one. I had some fun with it. I think this one had a better blend of like horror and humor than a lot of the other books in the series. And yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one, but it was a decent book. I enjoyed it. Frankenstein's Dog comes in at number 4, guys. All right, we are at the top 3. These are my favorite Most Wanted books, and while they're not exactly books that I really love or are among my top favorite Goosebumps books of all time, this is the best the series has to offer, in my opinion. And all 3 of these books, I rated 3 stars or higher, and I enjoyed them for the most part. So at number 3, we have Son of Slappy. Of course, I have an individual review of this book up if you want to go watch that, where I'll talk about it more in depth. But this book really surprised me because R.L. Stine, like I mentioned earlier, has like a dozen Slappy sequels. And what is he going to do that he hasn't done already? But he manages to find something, and that is giving Slappy like mind control powers as he takes over the life of our main character. And it's honestly kind of creepy. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. There were some issues I had with it. It does get a little bit repetitive in the second half. And yeah, it has some flaws, but overall, I was really surprised by this book. I really enjoyed Son of Slappy. This is definitely one of the best books in the Most Wanted series, so I recommend checking this one out. Son of Slappy comes in at number 3 for me. At number 2 is Here Comes the Shaggy. And this is actually one of the very first books I read in the Most Wanted series. I read this years ago, and the reason I like this book, don't get me wrong, this is not a great book. This isn't one I'd necessarily just recommend to everybody, even though it's at number 2 on the list. It does have a lot of issues and is kind of dumb, and not all of the humor in here works. But the reason I like this book and it's rated so high on my list is because out of every book in this series, this one is the most like classic era Goosebumps book. This one really harkens back to the OG 62, and it really feels kind of like a Werewolf of Fever swamp type book. It really borrows elements from those classic Goosebumps books, and it's written in third person. And most Goosebumps books are written in first person. And yeah, I don't know. This one just really has that vibe to it of the original Goosebumps series. And I really enjoyed it. It has some creepy moments in it. I love the descriptions of the swamp, and how they kind of like summon this swamp creature is really cool and creepy too. Not something we've seen before in Goosebumps. So it does have like some kind of interesting ideas in it. So yeah, Here Comes the Shaggy. This is a pretty good book. And I just like how reminiscent it feels of those older, more iconic titles in the franchise. So yeah, Here Comes the Shaggy, guys. My second favorite Most Wanted book. And at number 1, my favorite Goosebumps Most Wanted book is The Haunted Mask. And this is actually like a prologue to the series. This one is not numbered. I guess you could just consider it book 0. I don't know. I think R.L. Stine wrote this book before they decided Most Wanted was going to become a series. And this is actually the longest book in the series at like 240 pages. Like 230 pages. And this is not a special edition or anything, but what this essentially is 2 books in one. So the first part of the story follows our main character who discovers the haunted mask. And then the second story follows a character that's in the haunted mask story, but it takes a completely different turn. We follow him as he's completely away from the haunted mask storyline and has something else going on involving a pumpkin patch. And then at the very end of the second story, both stories kind of like connect and intertwine with one another. And it's pretty cool. I really like this book. And I think my favorite thing about this, honestly, is this is one of the goriest and bloodiest Goosebumps books ever written. Perhaps the most violent out of all of the Goosebumps books. The prologue to this book is insane. This one feels like it's more young adult than it is like middle grade, honestly. Now, the book itself isn't, I know I said this book is great and I really liked it. It's not necessarily all that good, especially compared to the original Haunted Mask book. The original Haunted Mask book will never be topped at all. This is not nearly as good as that, but I was just pleasantly surprised at how bloody this book was, and creepy, honestly. This book has some really creepy stuff in it, and I thought it was kind of cool how the two stories kind of connected at the end. And yeah, I had a good time with this one. Wanted the Haunted Mask is, in my opinion, the best book in the series, and comes in at my number 1. So, that's it, guys. That's my ranking of the Goosebumps Most Wanted series. Let me know down below in the comments what your ranking is for this series, or what your favorite or least favorite books are from the series. Overall, like I said, this is probably my least favorite Goosebumps series. Only the top, 3 books that I mentioned, Son of Slappy, The Haunted Mask, and Shaggy, those are probably the only ones I could really recommend from the series. But yeah, I don't regret reading them or anything. I still had a good time with these books. It's Goosebumps. I always have a good time with Goosebumps. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please comment down below and share your thoughts on the series. And be on the lookout for more Goosebumps related content. Peace.